Moving on, the possibility of IMF loan for Sri Lanka might just be approaching for the country. An IMF team is in the island nation to evaluate the financial steps taken by the government towards meeting the IMF conditions against the loan it secured. The island nation has received $2.9 billion of bailout money from the global lender after it defaulted on its foreign debt last April. The country is in dire need of money in order to emerge from the crisis, and IMF is one of the few helping hands, including China, India and Japan, that have emerged to save it during the crisis.
The International Monetary Fund mission in Sri Lanka will assess the effectiveness of the reforms that have been implemented thus far and finish a project to enhance governance in significant economic sectors. As a part of routine meetings in advance of the first review mission later this year, an IMF team is in Colombo through May 23rd. The team had meetings with a number of representatives, including President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who also serves as the nation's Minister of Finance.
Commendably, Sri Lanka has already started implementing many of the challenging policy action in these areas. It is now essential to continue the reform momentum under strong ownership by the authorities and the Sri Lankan people more broadly. Economic impact of the reforms on the poor and vulnerable needs to be mitigated with appropriate measures.
In an effort to revive its devastated economy, Sri Lanka is working to recover from its biggest financial crisis since independence in 1948. Following its default on its foreign debt in April of last year, the island country has received $2.9 billion in bailout funds from the international lender. The lender will assess whether the government's macroeconomic framework is still adequate or needs to be revised.
They'll be here till May 23rd. At that point, they will be able to provide a more comprehensive assessment of the progress with the reform agenda so far.
In the inaugural meeting of the official Bilateral Creditors Committee, which includes India and Paris Club members, earlier this month, Sri Lankan officials made a formal request for debt treatment. China, the largest bilateral lender to the island, took part in the meeting as an observer.
What the IMF does is it provides some financing that cushions the transition from this very harsh reality to a new equilibrium. So it gives a little bit of breathing space to let these reforms that are necessary take place and help the country emerge from the crisis. So that is really the part that helps the population to emerge from the crisis in the medium term.
By September, the report should be finished and contain recommendations on how to move forward with better governance and less corruption. In order to contribute to a positive cycle that will restore stability, the IMF is also urging local authorities to develop a plan to lower high domestic interest rates. Given the negative global environment and tightening domestic policies, the IMF presently anticipates a 3% contraction of the Sri Lankan GDP in 2023 before recording a moderate rise of 1.5% in 2024.